What's that marijuana? What's that marijuana plant over your right shoulder
We gotta
back
go.
there?
We gotta go, ladies and gentlemen. It's legal. It's legal here in Maryland, I think.
Welcome to Krush House. I'm your host, Wayne Allyn, the CEO of VegasWinners.com, and the man the media calls the king of Vegas sports gambling and America's odds maker. I'm the only sports handicapper in the world with a 180-pound granite star on the Las Vegas Walk of Stars. My company, Vegas Winners, sponsors the Krush House series, which includes this podcast, Krush House, as well as Krush House Cappers and Krush House Legends. Whether you love sports, legends, or sports gambling, we've got the podcast for you. I want to remind you to go to VegasWinners.com right after this podcast ends for one of my world-famous games of the year. Just register. It's simple. It's easy. It takes a minute or less, and you automatically receive $1,000 in free coupons, which you can apply to my game of the year or to the winning point spread advice of any of our 21 world-class handicapping champions. It's all at VegasWinners.com. Later in the show, I'll be back with my Football Insider segment with former NFL quarterback and Canadian Football League champion Sean Salisbury to bring you insights on the NFL and valuable point spread advice. But right now, I'll throw it to my main men, Frank and Sean. See you in a few minutes.
Hey everybody, I'm Frank Nicotero, and as I look out the Krush House window, I see the fall colors in full effect. I see the red representing how hot Wayne Allyn Root is with his NFL picks. I see red for Sean's Bo Sox. I also see orange for Sean's second favorite team, the Houston Astros, or orange for Cleveland, who beat the Orange Broncos last night. But mostly, I see yellow, reminding me of what a coward I was for not believing Case Keenum could cover the spread last night, causing my parlays that I opened for this week, speaking of fall colors, to look brown already. So what's up, Sean? What's happening, buddy?
You're a magician, brother. I love it. Yeah, my Red Sox are in trouble, but the Astros seem to be playing really good baseball. You should have taken Cleveland last night because I did. It sets up too well for all the injuries. Case Keenum, a veteran at home. It set up. You had to have it, man. So there's that, and I'm just grateful to be here on a Friday, heading into a football, baseball, basketball, hockey weekend.
I mean, it's unbelievable. I hear you, man. Now I'm not at home. I am in Maryland, and I'll give you two choices. I'm in Maryland because I was hired by CBS to cover the big Bengals-Ravens game this week, or I'm in Maryland because I'm here to go to a wedding of two people I've never met, and my girlfriend made me. So I don't know which.
No, I'm going to take A. You could do A for sure, but I'll take B because that was too much emphasis on the wedding. You don't know the people, but you're there anyway.
Exactly. So let's talk about last night. This guy, I mean, I don't know if you could hear the screams of people throughout the country last night screaming, who the fuck is Dearness Johnson, and why didn't I pick him up before Jeff did in my fantasy league? I mean,
right.
This guy, unbelievable last night. They're down Hunt, they're down Chubb. This kid steps in 146 yards. Unbelievable.
What a great bonus to have, right? And not undrafted guy.
Yeah,
which if you're a drafted running back, all it did was say, see, here's why we don't need to draft running backs in the first round, especially. We see this movie, but you got to get movement. It seemed like the Cleveland Browns had a little extra up front in them last night, knowing that they didn't have Chubb or Hunt. And this kid, not only did he hit the hole, but he bounced it. He got inside. He was north and south. The initial contact didn't stop him. I thought it was a fan. And it helped Case Keenum and everything set up. Their defense played well.
Yeah.
But he was the star of the show last night. And what a great feeling it must be for him.
I mean,
because all he's doing is extending his career, even though he's behind two good backs.
I just read this online. The guy used to work on a fishing boat catching mahi-mahi.
Yep.
And he played for the Orlando Apollos in the AF. And here he is having the game of his life on primetime TV, and his hero, LeBron James, tweets at him and tells him what a big game he had, how much he loves him. I mean, he heard from LeBron, and that's all he could really about the postgame. I mean, hearing from a hero like that, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is. What a phenomenal, you sit there, he had a great game, everybody's watching, and then you say, well, because, people go in saying, well, Chubb and Hunt aren't there. Man, maybe we should pick against them. Who's this guy? And then, well, you know who he is now, and you're going to know even more. I'm sure the followers went up tenfold or 1,000 or 100,000-fold after LeBron jumps into it and does it. I think it's a great story. And who doesn't want their hero or somebody you like or watched growing up telling you how good you were?
I mean, can you like when you played, was there somebody who maybe came out and said something positive about your style of play or you know, just your overall play that meant something to you? Like this LeBron thing meant the world to this kid. So I'm wondering, I mean, as a professional athlete, even though you're a professional athlete, you still like hearing from guys you respect, right?
And I think we like it in our profession as well, no matter what we're doing, Frankie. And for me, there's a 2 or 3 of them that stick out. I remember we were playing in a playoff game, and Jim McMahon got hurt, and I came off the bench and was playing really good football, and Jim came back in, and it was freezing cold in January in the Meadowlands. And after the game, Phil Simmons came up and hugged. They went on to win the Super Bowl that year. Came up and hugged me and said, and it wasn't disrespectful to Jim, but I was having one of those days, even though I was teeth chattering cold on the bench.
Right.
He said, I'm sure glad they took you back out of the game. And I thought, and honestly, meaning his point was, had you stayed in, it might have been a different result, which made me feel good. I remember Michael Strahan telling me when he got into the broadcast business, and I don't think Michael would mind this, but he sent me a message and we talked, and he said, a lot of the things that I do in my broadcast career are because of you, meaning he watched, which I took as a high compliment, and whether it's true or not. And then when I was on television at ESPN, Bruce Willis, they had asked him in like those Coors 5, you know, the questions they'd asked in Sports Center, and they had asked Bruce Willis who his favorite people were on ESPN, and he said my name, and I'm like, I had never met Bruce Willis, but I thought that was cool. And then one I saved for last because it is football. I was playing my sophomore year at we were playing against Oklahoma, and while the name may bother some people now, but at that point in time, he was still O.J. Simpson. Mm-hmm. And we were on the sidelines beating Oklahoma in Norman, Oklahoma, my sophomore year, and O.J. had went up to my parents after the game and said, that will be our first Heisman Trophy winning quarterback at USC. Now, I shredded my knee twice. And about 2 weeks later, I shredded my knee and was leading the country in passing that year. So not arrogant, but those are 4 that stick out to me that thought, man, for people to recognize the broadcast side or the football side, it was an honor. I didn't have the game that kid had last night, but it sure was nice to hear from your peers or people that care.
Well, of those 4, those are all great. I mean, you're talking Phil Sims, Strahan, Bruce Willis, O.J. Simpson. Which one means the most if you had to put one at the top of the list?
I guess, and this, I don't mean this wrong, my football part, I always knew that when the opportunity was there, and having been started at SC for 4 different years and played, that with the right opportunity that I was going to, that I could do that all the time. I felt good about that. I don't mean that arrogant, but I felt it. And when you get into a broadcast career, it's like, I would say the Strahan thing, and look what Michael's doing now. I mean, Strahan's so friggin' good at his job. He didn't need to compliment me like that, but right when he was getting into it, I thought, and now he's on every show, from game shows to morning shows. Hell, Mike's got like 400 jobs that he's great at all of them.
Unbelievable.
So that sticks out because he was a football peer. He watched me broadcast while I talked about, you know, while I was broadcasting game or studio work while he was still a player, and then to make that transition and to send me that compliment made me feel good. I think the Bruce Willis thing, because
awesome.
He didn't know me from Adam.
Yeah.
So it's kind of foreign territory, and for him to say, I love Sean Salisbury on air, then that made me feel pretty good.
Yeah, hell yeah. Maybe you could have been in one of the Die Hard movies. You could have had you could double for him. Look at you. You're too big. You're way bigger than Bruce Willis. That's the problem.
Yeah, just a tad bigger than Bruce Willis, but I take all those as a compliment. And anytime a peer that you respect says something about you, then you know you're doing right. So one of those would be it.
Attention sports bettors, I'm Wayne Allyn, the founder of Vegas Winners. I'm the man the media calls the king of Vegas sports gambling and America's odds maker. I'm the only sports handicapper to ever be awarded a 180-pound granite star on the Las Vegas Walk of Stars. I'm that good. Today I've got another of my world-famous college football games of the year. Sportsbook directors across America fear that name. Now you could play a Wayne Allyn game of the year without spending a fortune. The cost is $100, but go to Vegas Winners today and you'll get $1,000 of free coupons. Go to Vegas Winners right now. Register. It costs nothing. It takes 2 minutes. Then you'll get $1,000 of free coupons. Apply them to my game of the year or even a subscription. But you have to act now because only the first 10,000 to register get the deal. It's simple and easy. It's fully automated, completely private, no one to ever speak to. So what are you waiting for? $1,000 in free coupons and my world famous college football game of the year is waiting.
winning if you're among the first 10,000 to register at Vegas Winners now.
And you were talking about Cleveland, how they had a little extra, because they knew they were down Hunt, they were down Chubb. Also, Von Miller was talking a lot of smack before that game, how he was going to dominate the game. And today he came out and said, he's embarrassed. How he talked a big game. I mean, yeah, he hurt his ankle and had to come out, but, he had one tackle all night.
That's the risk you take, Frank.
Oof.
That's the risk you take for a great player and a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah.
But when you put yourself out there, you got two choices. You either get an ass kicking or you deliver an ass kicking. And sometimes a little bit of humble pie, and they delivered it to him last night, injury or not. A lot of times for me, I think it's probably wiser to speak after the game as opposed to before it.
Yeah. Because
the other guy's getting paid too, and it's not exactly like Denver's Tampa Bay.
Right.
Now Vaughn's a hell of a player, but it's not exactly like you're going on the road against a team that you're supposed to whoop their ass. And lesson learned, whether you're a rookie in the league or a longtime veteran like Von Miller.
Yeah.
These professionals will issue a can of whoop ass at any time and put you in. He'll be in the Hall of Fame, but he'll look back one day and say, maybe, just maybe, I should talk less and listen more when it comes to that. But Vaughn's a special player and a good dude, and I applaud him for admitting that he was embarrassed.
Exactly. And that line you just tossed away, like almost you threw out there, was the other guys are getting paid too. It's like you can talk, you forget. It's like he can talk all once, but the other guys are paid to play football, and they're going to try and stop you.
Right.
But that Dearness Johnson, man, I mean, it reminded me, like, when these guys come out on national TV and have this big game, we might never hear from him again or a big game. But I remember when I was a kid, now I don't know why I always associate this with, is Eric Hipple on Monday Night Football. He was a quarterback for the Lions. I don't even remember who the starter was back then for Detroit, but he was hurt. And Eric Hipple, and I remember I used to watch Monday Night Football. I would turn the brightness down on the TV in my bedroom so my parents wouldn't see the light coming from the bed because I wanted to watch Monday Night Football. It was past my bedtime. And I remember Eric Hipple, and I always remembered that name because he had this huge game on prime time, and maybe never lived up to that again. But there's something special about playing in prime time, right?
Oh, there is. And, this stories like that, the Hipple story or what you saw last night, are, well, we can go, Tom Brady taking over for Bledsoe. It may not have been in the same game.
Right.
Clint, go back and look at the Thanksgiving Day game when Washington played Dallas. Clint Longley coming off the bench and throwing a couple big, huge touchdown passes.
Yeah.
Remember when McMahon came off the bench and threw 3 touchdowns against the Vikings in the second half when he was in Chicago or maybe it was in Chicago, wherever he was, to beat the Vikings, I believe, before he got to Minnesota on a Monday night or Sunday night football game. I remember Timmy Smith in the Super Bowl rushing for 206 yards. And we never saw him surface again. But that game, nice way to have your biggest game of your life against a team like in a Super Bowl rushing for 206 yards. So these happen. One that sticks out the most to me, Frank, I don't know if I shared this with you. I was in when Kurt Warner had made this, took over for Trent Green. Did I ever tell you that story?
No, I remember Green in preseason ripped his knee or something.
We got hurt in the last preseason game, and everybody in the stadium was like, oh my gosh, it was in St. Louis. What are we going to do? And I called Mike Martz, the coordinator, the next week, or like 3 days later. I said, Mike, what are you guys going to do? They had a Super Bowl caliber team. He goes, we're going to play this guy named Kurt Warner. And, well, that guy named Kurt Warner won a Super Bowl, was the MVP of the league. And I was even I went on NFL Live and said, I really don't know anything about this Kurt Warner. I was teammates with the other Kurt Warner from Penn State, the running back. Yeah. And Kurt Warner still to this day, we laugh, gives me a hard time. He goes, I guess, joking around, well, you found out who I was, didn't you? And gave me a hard time, because I didn't know if it was going to work out. Neither did Mike Martz. And Mike said that, and lo and behold, he goes to a Hall of Fame career and a special dude. So these happen more often than we think. The question is, can you sustain it?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, like last night, the Dearness Johnson worked on a fishing boat. Kurt Warner wasn't he working in a grocery store in Iowa?
That's exactly right. Yep, and played Arena Football League and in Europe and all over. And next thing you know, he's throwing dig routes to Torrey Holt and Isaac Bruce, and they're winning Super Bowls.
The greatest show on turf, man. That was so much fun to watch. All right, let's talk about some picks. Last week, I know we did well. I loved Arizona against Cleveland. I jumped all over the Cardinals. Now this week, there's 2 big lines. Now here's one I want to talk about. Tampa Bay, who didn't cover against Philly, right? Philly comes in with that backdoor cover. But they're minus 12.5 against Justin Fields and the Bears, who look anemic on offense, maybe not as bad as the numbers might show, but I don't know. I just look at Tampa Bay minus 12.5. I think they just put the pedal down and crush the Bears. I don't know. What do you like in the pros?
I like a lot of big numbers this week, Frank. I do. I'm already ahead of you. I already bet it. I got the Buccaneers at 11.5, so that's going up. As good as Justin Fields can be, he's going to realize as a rookie that they move pretty quick in Tampa Bay, and it's going to be tough on the road. I would fully expect you to see a Tampa Bay. That's a 2.5 touchdown win for them, I believe. That's one. I think the Arizona Cardinals are going to absolutely curb stomp the Houston Texans.
Yeah.
This is like a 38-13 type game, and they're 17.5-point favorites. And one more in the NFL. I know people talk about revenge games, right? And I like Jared Goff in Detroit. They're going to play the Rams. They're 16-point underdogs. I don't think this is close either. So I got 3 big ones, and I'm taking all favorites, which is not normally what I do in the NFL.
I know you don't.
Like
you hate the big numbers.
The big numbers I don't. But
like
in college, I'll get some big numbers, and I got one. I got 2 games for you, and you can put a guarantee in my mind on both of these.
Okay.
Iowa State minus 7 at home against Oklahoma State. In Ames, that seems to happen every year. Iowa State, I think Oklahoma State's 8th or 9th or 10th in the country, somewhere in there. I'm telling you, Iowa State's going to take care of their business at home. I love that, but even more so.
Okay.
Even more so for me, after what Brett Bielema said to his Illinois team, did you see that? Talking about how, I really wouldn't have recruited any of these guys. They're not really making an impact. And I'm like, what? You're supposed to be a self-esteem builder?
Unbelievable.
They're going to Penn State to play in Happy Valley. It's 23 points. Penn State's going to destroy Illinois. Other than the fact that they're just a better team, they're going to go up and down the field on them and take care of their business. I like that one. And keep an eye on a comeback by Liberty after a bad game last week. They're big-time favorites over North Texas. I'm taking Liberty again. That's like 21 points. I think that's a 4-touchdown win for Liberty on the road.
Since we've had Rashad Jennings, I always like taking a look at the Liberty lines, and they've usually covered. So let's go back to Liberty.
I think they're 4-2 against the cover as far as covering this year. It'll happen again this week for them.
Okay.
And the Ole Miss, the Ole Miss game.
Yeah.
The Ole Miss and LSU game's like 76 points. The over. I'm a big take the biggest over of the week guy, so at least think about that one, Frankie, before you make your bets.
I like all these picks. And listen, speaking of picks, I know you talked to Wayne. You talked about revenge games, and I think that's coming in with Goff coming back to play the Rams. So I want to hear what you and Wayne talked about with some stuff here. Always love hearing you and Wayne talk. Here we go.
All right, Wayne Allyn Root with Sean Salisbury, former NFL quarterback and Grey Cup champion up in our friends in Canada, eh? Hey, Sean, how are you?
I'm good, Wayne. Good to be with you, brother. Thank you.
By the way, you must have loved your time in Canada, because every time I visit Canada, they're like the nicest people in the world. I've never seen such nice people.
Listen, they treated me like unbelievable, and they welcomed me, and it didn't hurt at the end of the season that we won the Grey Cup the first year I was there, so you become fairly popular in Canada when you can win as well. But the people were phenomenal. I loved it. Had a good time.
You're being very humble. I'm sure you were not fairly popular. You were a god in Canada in those days, a god. But they're just the nicest people I've ever met. You know what they remind me of? The Midwest. They're like Midwest Americans in a whole country. It's great. Good, nice people. All right, let's recap last week a little bit, because my memory says I heard 3 things from you last week, and I haven't reviewed anything. So just off the top of my head, I remember you said the Dallas Cowboys would beat New England. They did, and covered the spread. You said the Raiders would actually play well after Gruden's firing, because they'd probably come together psychologically. And by the way, I disagreed with you. I thought they'd probably maybe could come back and play well the rest of the season. But for 1 week, I thought they'd be mentally blown out. You were right. They played their best game of the season. So there's 2-0. And I believe you gave a guarantee on the Cincinnati Bearcats in college football, and they crushed their opponents. So 3-0. So great day.
Thank
Great
you.
stuff.
I'll take it any day of the week. You never go broke taking a profit, as you well know, because you've been dominating your picks all year long, my man.
Well, Mr. CEO hired you for a reason. You're very good.
There you go.
Good stuff. We'll keep you another week at least.
I'm in. I'm not going anywhere. I'm right here for you.
All right, good. All right, so let's talk about the questions we thought would be the big ones today. So players hold a grudge when they play their former team, and I'm assuming, of course, a couple weeks ago, New England and Brady, but now this week it's the Rams taking on the Detroit Lions, who traded quarterbacks in the offseason, And so Stafford, is he going to hold a grudge? Is Detroit's wimpy, cowardly, horrible quarterback going to cave under the pressure of playing back in L.A.? Those are the kind of questions I've got for you.
And you know, Wayne, we got a couple of them too, because remember J.J. Watt and DeAndre Hopkins was traded for a second-round pick to Arizona. You like Hopkins for a second-rounder, and they got the Texans. And like the Rams are like 16-point favorites. The Arizona Cardinals are like 17.5-point favorites.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what happens on this is now Goff, while he may want to get even and do it, the problem is you better have good players to do it. And he's not going to be able to get even. Now Matt Stafford, who I know he loved his time in Detroit, but it'll be nice for him to put a stamp and say, "See, I'm glad I'm here because we're far better." And they're going to take him to the woodshed. So I think it does matter. But players don't get mad at other players. It's usually why the organization get rid of me.
Right.
The head coach pissed me off. I didn't like my position coach. J.J. Watt's still a god in Houston. I mean, aside from Mattress Mac, he's the biggest celebrity in this town in Houston. And I think Hopkins probably a little. Look for him to have a monster game if you got a fantasy team. Because when you trade him like that and they got rid of him and people didn't like it, I think you can imagine that Hopkins, but that team's changed so many players. It's usually against the organization. But yeah, it means a little more when you beat your previous team because they basically said, we're not interested in having you anymore, and that's why they got rid of you.
Hey, by the way, being that you're down in Houston, maybe you could get a message to Mattress Mac for me. We've got 21 handicappers on my world-class team at Vegas Winners. I'd like 22. Mattress Mac should join the team. He's good, man.
I will. He comes to my station all the time. He's a big advertiser, and he loves people. When somebody are going through difficult times, a hurricane, he opens his store.
Yes.
I need to introduce you to, because I think that you would not only hit it off, but you would love him in person.
Oh, I'm sure I would. I'm sure he'd like the fact that I'm in the sports gambling business.
Yeah, he bets a lot of money. That's right.
He's like me, a gambler and a business entrepreneur, which is the definition of a gambler.
That's exactly right. Very much
that's
so.
why those two go together. All my customers over the years, people think the customers are like average people who bet on sports, or they think they're kids just getting out of college. Not true. My experience has been almost every customer I've ever had in my life is like a businessman who owns 1 or 2 or 3 restaurants or 3 dry cleaners or 4 gas stations or a furniture store, and they make $1 million a year, and they love to gamble on business. So why wouldn't they gamble on the weekend on a football game? So that's been my lifetime of customers. That's who walks in casinos to bet in sports books. So let's talk. Oh, by the way, you mentioned psychology with Goff. Now I've never been a fan of Goff. I think he melts under pressure. I think he's great when there's no pressure. And the minute there's pressure, like the Super Bowl, he was pathetic. And so I think he'll melt under pressure knowing he's up against his old coach and his own old organization.
And they know every move he makes, Wayne.
Right.
I think you're exactly right. And like I said, he'll put up big numbers, but he reminds me of a guy that when you're winning, you're up by 3 touchdowns, it's all
He's
good,
great.
right?
Yeah.
But it's going to be very difficult for him to be playing from his ass against the Rams. Just as much as Goff wants to prove it, the Rams got more weapons to prove it. And I'm sure that Stafford and Sean McVay would like to prove that the decisions they make, and we know it was the right one, to make that quarterback change. I'm with you. I think Jared Goff's a really good front runner. I don't mean it disrespectful. He's a good guy. But when it comes to playing quarterback, this was absolutely the right move for the Rams, or they would have never made it back to a Super Bowl with him.
And when I was a kid, I watched the New York Yankees. I was an incredible Yankees fan. Dave Winfield was a Yankees superstar. I believe he's in the Hall of Fame. I think he made the Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah. Padres, Yankees, he is a Hall of Famer.
But he reminds me of Goff. He built his stats in the first inning. He was good from the first through the 5th inning. When you needed him in the 9th inning with the bases loaded, he would either strike out, pop up, or hit a bouncer to second base. He was great in the first inning, home run. In the 3rd inning, triple, knocking in 3 runs. But when the game's 8-8 in the 9th inning, he struck out every time. I watched it for 15 years. So he made the Hall of Fame in the first inning.
You can't say that about Reggie Jackson, right? Mr.
Nope.
October was he could hit 220 and strike out 200 times during the season. The postseason, Reggie's eyes lit up and said, "Oh, this is my damn time." No doubt about it.
That's my kind of player. Tommy Henrik, an old Yankee, same thing, all reliable. Always got the base hit in the 9th inning. All right, we wanted to talk about my Cowboys, who are incredible. Now, let me tell you a little confession here. You know I'm the biggest Cowboy fan in the world, and I've won with them all year this year until last week. I had a huge play last week on New England. Do you realize when a game goes to overtime and you're getting 3.5, you have like a 90% chance of winning that game. Either my team wins by 3 or your team wins by 3, and I have the half and I win no matter what. And my Cowboys go for it all and throw a 35-yard bomb and get a touchdown in overtime. All they had to do was hand off 3 times and kick a field goal, and I win with the Cowboys, and I win my bet too. And life is good. And instead, they blow thousands of dollars for me by going for a touchdown.
Wayne, I was sitting there, and I love you, brother, but I'm rooting the opposite. I'm saying I got the Cowboys all the way. Throw me a touchdown pass. Screw settling for that damn field goal in overtime. I want you to score the touchdown and put this shit away. Well, CeeDee Lamb, who's a great player, and Prescott, who continues to get better all the time. The Cowboys are even better than I thought they would be going in, and I held them in high regard. They are a definite February threat, Wayne, but sorry about yours, man, but I ain't apologizing for winning that bet. I'll take that money for once. I'll take it, my man.
There you go. And Dak Prescott is a potential future Hall of Famer. He could be a Hall of Fame type guy. It's
amazing. I still think he's underrated, Wayne. I don't think people give him the credit he deserves. I really don't.
Well, he's definitely top 5, no question. I don't think he's number 1, but he's top 5 quarterback in the NFL. And his offense may be number 1 in the NFL. And I continue to say, I've said it every week on this show, the defense impresses me more than the offense because I knew the offense would be great. The defense is incredible. They give up lots of yards, but man, the turnovers, I think it's the most turnovers this early in a season in many, many years in the NFL. They have an average of 2 or 3
every week. They score points on defense. They give you short fields with their turnovers, no doubt.
Good stuff. All right, next question. What do you think of the Kansas City Chiefs? You trust them? Because I don't, by the way.
Yeah, and one thing about that one I wanted to get in real quick, and Wayne, you can tell me if you agree with this Mike McCarthy thing that with the Cowboys, because he gets a lot of flack, right? And I was asked the question, so I was kind of putting it out there. Can they overcome Mike McCarthy and still win a Super Bowl? And my answer is yes. I like Mike, but at some point during the season, he's going to call a 4th down play. He's going to miss a timeout or a clock management that's going to screw his team. But I still think, because he's a good coach, Mike just needs to get a little bit better at moving chess pieces during a game. They can overcome it and win a Super Bowl, but Mike's got to be better when it comes to using timeouts and time clock. Wayne, I don't know if you agree, but they got to be better with that.
No, I agree. You're being humble. I'll use a stronger word. Mike McCarthy, a very good coach, but he is shit when it comes to 4th down decisions. He makes the wrong one most of the time. When you should go, he kicks, and when you should kick, he goes. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen. He doesn't have that sheet in front of him. There's a sheet that tells you, probabilities. He should have it right in front of him, or someone should be in his ear telling him, and he's always making the wrong choice. And he's lousy with clock.
Kansas City, right? Yeah.
Right. And he's lousy with clock. Kansas City. Do you trust Kansas City?
You know what, Wayne? For the first time since Mahomes has been the starter, and I'm a huge Andy Reid fan, I don't.
Right.
Now, I trust them to make the playoffs, but here's the problem. They're going, this is a serious game to look at on just straight up win. Tennessee's, I think, 4-point dogs at home or 5-point. I think Tennessee can beat Kansas City. I don't know how their defense is. The reason I don't trust them is you can't keep turning to Mahomes and saying, dude, dress in a phone booth every fucking week, right? Mm-hmm. And it's constant. Dress in a phone booth, and he's leading in touchdown passes. The guy is otherworldly, but at some point in time, and we saw it in the Super Bowl, defense is either going to get a stop, and if your defense can't. I trust Mahomes. I trust Andy Reid. But there's so many good teams. I don't trust them. I don't have them as a top 4 in my Super Bowl picks. I'm not even sure they're winning the division if the Chargers can keep pace. So when I say I trust them, I trust part of it. I don't trust their defense. I think Derrick Henry can rush for 185 yards this week. I think you should keep an eye on that game with Tennessee at home on a straight-up pick. I don't trust them to be in the Super Bowl this year. I think Buffalo, I think there's 4 or 5 teams or 6 teams that are better than Tennessee, than Kansas City overall.
When I watched the Sunday night game 2 weeks ago against Buffalo, Kansas City got blown out against Buffalo. To me, Mahomes' arm looked bad, looked sore. Every throw was in the dirt. Every throw was low. Something didn't look right. Now, last week in the second half, he proved that his arm was okay, but something was wrong 2 weeks ago, and I think he's got a problem and he's hiding it, and he's not telling us that he's got an injury. Maybe it's a labrum, maybe it's a shoulder, maybe it's an elbow. I don't know. But he's not the same thrower. Right. He's not the same thrower.
Boy, does he have to carry around a burden to carry that defense, because you can score 30 and still get beat if you're Kansas City, and that's not a good feeling.
I'm not sure you can't score 40 and get beat. But
right, yeah, good point.
Right. All right, so let's talk about the most disappointing team in the league. I know that was the next question you wanted me to ask you. Let me answer it for you. Kansas City. Kansas City's on that list. They're very disappointing so far this year. They don't look good on offense. Mahomes' arm doesn't look good, and the defense is horrible. Who's your pick, though, for the most disappointing team?
I got one in each conference. San Francisco so far. I know they've been going through, but their roster, and I know they're hurt, but you know what? What's Lamar Jackson doing when his guys are hurt?
Yeah,
He's stepping his game
hurt.
up.
Everybody's hurt.
That's right. So for me, a 49er team that's roster says playoff roster, the constant, they don't know their identity. They don't know if they want to run it. They don't know if they want to throw it. They got a receiver in the doghouse. They're playing Jimmy, then they're playing Trey Lance. I think from coaching all the way down, and I like Kyle Shanahan a lot, but I don't even think they know their identity. And at this point in the season, you sure shit should. So that's one. They're a disappointment to me. And I'll tell you, a team that I thought would win the division. And I know it's early, but the Cleveland Browns, and they pulled it off last night. Their roster says undefeated. Their roster is loaded. The problem is a little inconsistency here. Didn't close against Kansas City.
And injuries.
Yes, injured. Baker gets hurt. Keenan plays. 2 running backs so get hurt. So I understand it, but even before the injuries, Wayne, before Chubb and Hunt, I expect more from Cleveland, and I hold them in high regard. They've been a little disappointing because that roster says 5-1, 6-1. Not what are they 4-3 now with the win last night?
Yeah. And I got to tell you, you mentioned both running backs are out for Cleveland, and the backup got 140 yards rushing, which is special.
Phenomenal night.
But it points out again how good Baltimore's coaching is, Harbaugh at Baltimore, because they lost all their running backs, and the team just keeps winning. It's amazing. Right. Cleveland won one night with a backup running back. Baltimore wins every week, and for the rest of the season, I'm assuming, with backup third-string, fourth-string running backs. That's how good Harbaugh really is. Good coach.
Agreed.
Guarantee of the week.
I got one in college, one in the NFL. After what I listened to Brett Bielema at Illinois say about his team, saying I wouldn't recruit any of these guys. I mean, you're in the self-esteem building business. They're 23-point dogs going into Happy Valley. Penn State's going to beat the dog shit out of them this week, not only because they're a better team, but if you're a player and you're looking at your coach sideways, say, oh, you wouldn't have recruited me, I'm not real good. I think that's a bad way to go about it. And Bielema's a good coach. Penn State, that's a big number, but Penn State's going to cover that. And in the NFL, I like a lot of big numbers. For me this week, I don't see how Chicago stays in the game. 11.5 or 11-point underdogs in Tampa. Justin Fields will realize just how quick the speed of the game is. They can't keep up offensively. Defense will get a couple turnovers. He's going to be a hell of a player, but Brady kicks it into gear again. This is one of those 31-13 type games. I like Tampa at minus 11.5, take care of their business at home. I think that's a guarantee this week.
You know, I haven't looked it up. I think I'll look it up and be ready for next week's show. I'll call it my age versus beauty trend. So far this year, every quarterback who's been around forever has beaten all these rookies, right? Look at the rookies all around the league. No rookie quarterback really has had a great season. Matter of fact, the highest rated passer has been the kid on New England. And he just lost to Dallas. Mac Jones. Right. He just lost to Dallas. So the reality is these young kids come into the league, and yeah, they win a game here or there, but overall, you make a lot of money betting against those young kids when you have a Brady on the other side of the game. So age before beauty. We'll call that a new stat. Age before beauty. All right. That's it for this week's show. Great stuff as always. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you again next week, Sean. Let me mention my record, as I always do, to end the show, because I want people to go over to Vegas Winners, where you get $1,000 in free coupons to apply to all the big games. I've got a game of the year again this week. My record for the entire NFL season, 26-15-1. That's 63% with every play this season. I've won 4 out of 6 NFL weeks, and the other 2 were like 3-4 and 3-4, and all 3 losing, 3 out of 4 losing games both weeks came down to the last drive of the game. I could have won 3 out of 4. 15-2, 88% with primetime plays, Sundays, Thursdays, and Mondays. 15-2, 88%. And I've won 13 of the last 17 NFL Sundays going back to last season. That's 76% winners, all independently documented and monitored. Another Wayne Root patented game of the year going this week, and all you have to do is go to Vegas Winners, take 1 minute or less to register. You get $1,000 in free coupons, apply it to the game of the year, or 21 other world champion handicappers with their advice. Buy it. I don't care if you like me or hate me. Choose one of the 22 we got, and you'll get some winners from all of them. And you got $1,000 to start with that you can play with. All right, Sean, thank you.
Wayne, great stuff. I'll see you next week, bud. Have a great weekend.
You got it.
Attention, sports bettors. Has anyone ever given you $1,000 before? I mean really given you $1,000 in free point spread advice. I'm Wayne Allyn, the man the media calls the king of Vegas sports gambling and America's odds maker. To celebrate our new website, Vegas Winners, I'm giving $1,000 of free coupons to the first 10,000 sports bettors who register. It's simple and easy. Just be among the first 10,000 to register right now at Vegas Winners for your $1,000 of free coupons. Sports gambling, legal and licensed in states all over the USA. And I built the world's best sports handicapping website for you because you need expert advice. We've got it all. Free picks and best bets every day from 21 champion handicappers, as well as the latest scores and odds, and every sports handicapping tool you need to win big. All of that free. It's fully automated, completely private, no one to ever speak to. Be one of the first 10,000 to register right now and get your $1,000 of free coupons. Go right now to Vegas Winners, your new home for sports betting advice. That's Vegas Winners.
All right, Sean, before we move on from college picks, though, USC Notre Dame. Come on, this is always the second biggest game of the year for USC. Well, I'm as a Bruin fan, I say that this might be the number one game. You're shaking your head already. The line's 7. What do you see? What do you see in this game?
You know what's sad about this, Frank? And when you think about this, it's Friday, and I've talked about this only one time this week.
Right.
It's one of the best. Michigan, Ohio State. This one, Army, Navy, but SC Notre Dame's a rivalry that is a monster. You think about the Anthony Davis game when he rushed for 6 touchdowns and they came back from behind. And I've been fortunate to be a part of, 4 or 5 of those games, 5 of them, to be honest with you, because I was hurt a couple times. So then going back and forth. And if you haven't watched a game in South Bend, and even if you hate Notre Dame and Southern Cal, that's where you want to go. But the buzz, there is no buzz about it.
Yeah.
SC's blah. Notre Dame's obviously a little bit overrated, even though they're still ranked in the top 25. But SC, there's no buzz, and I hate it because this is and Frank, you mentioned UCLA. The truth is, we go against those guys, and they're a handful of miles apart. SC and UCLA. It's a great rivalry game, and we played against those guys each other in high school. But I'll be honest with you, the better rivalry for us is Notre Dame.
Yeah.
It is. I can remember John McKay came in as a guest speaker. We didn't know, and he said to us in the locker room before an SC Notre Dame game, I don't care if you play in the Rose Bowl, the Super Bowl, the NFL, whatever it is, you're going to remember this game more than you remember any game in your life. And he said it, and our eyes got big. And he's right. I can remember everything about it. So I'm bummed. And Notre Dame has to be the favorite, but I'm going to go with my Trojans just because I have to and I should. But we just got to be more explosive on offense. But it's a bummer because nobody's even talking about this.
I know, that's what I mean. I looked down at the bottom and I went, oh, shit, because usually it's always later in the season, right? It was always like the last.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, my God, that's this week. So
it's an oh, my gosh game. You said, oh, that's right. They're playing this week.
That's exactly
And you
what I
shouldn't be
said.
saying that about a rivalry game.
Absolutely.
That's exactly right.
All right, real quick, we got to wrap it up. But baseball, I know you're a Boston Red Sox fan. And I'm watching the Dodgers last night. Chris Taylor with 3 home runs, unbelievable.
Unreal.
The umpiring behind the plate has been horrible. People calling for robot umpires for strikes and balls. Laz Diaz had the worst game ever. Robotic umpires, do we need them for calls for balls and strikes?
Well, first off, the Red Sox are pushing this thing to 7.
Okay, that's what I was
Evaldi's going to have Evaldi's going to have an out-of-body experience to at least get to 7. Or at least he better, because the Astros are raking, and Fromber was off the charts the other night. I'll tell you this: I like the human element.
Yeah.
I know everybody wants to get it right. What we need to do is remove that square from TV. That's right, because we just got to get rid of that because you can't win if you're the umpire, and most people wouldn't be questioning every call if we didn't have it. So that's the first. It embarrasses the umpires. I wouldn't want their job, but Laz Diaz was horseshit the other night, both ways. But if you're going to be horseshit, be horseshit going for both ways, right? Right. Now, like I said, I don't want the gig. I respect these umpires. But you ask the players to play their best and put their best out there. I would imagine the umpires have to do it, but you got to overcome it. And if you don't, then you find yourself going home. But you got to do better behind home plate. You can't miss them by 1.5 foot.
I agree. All right. Well, listen, you got some picks. You got some picks for both of us. We have a special guest coming in, Ben Simmons. He doesn't want to do it. Okay. Ben Simmons doesn't want to be anywhere apparently.
Oh, I'd say shoot your shot, Ben, but he doesn't like to shoot when the game's on the line.
Exactly.
That's so wrong.
All right. Well, thanks to Wayne Allyn, Sean Salisbury as always. Iowa State. That's your guaranteed pick. Iowa State.
My biggest guarantee is Penn State.
Penn State.
I'm going Penn State first. But if you like Iowa State, there's a reason they are not in the top 20 and favored by a touchdown at home.
Against the
there
top
is a
10.
reason why.
All right,
there you go.
The odds makers know what they're doing. All right, we love everybody for watching Crush House. Make sure you check out Vegas Winners for free picks from Wayne Allyn Root and his crew of Crush House cappers. I'm going to a wedding. I'll be back at home next week. I'm just going to stand here and look at the foliage, though. Look at the leaves turn. Just beautiful. Just going to drink some cider.
I'm Wayne Allyn Root. Thanks for tuning into the Crush House. Today, I want to remind you to go to VegasWinners.com right after this podcast ends for one of my world-famous Games of the Year. Just register. It's simple. It's easy. It takes a minute or less. And you automatically receive $1,000 in free coupons, which you can apply to my Game of the Year. And you also get 5,000 reward points, which can be converted into gifts and prizes with our state-of-the-art cryptocurrency reward system. It's all at VegasWinners.com. What else is waiting for you at Vegas Winners? Check out all our entertaining and informative Crush House podcasts. Enter to win fabulous prizes, including trips to Vegas to join me and the Crush House gang to watch a game, break some bread, and experience Sin City like few ever will. And most importantly, it's always about my favorite thing, winning, and winning big. And of course, there's the point spread winners. We've got free winners every day at Vegas Winners, plus best bets from our team of 21 champions, the greatest lineup ever assembled. All you have to do is take 1 minute to register. Just go to VegasWinners.com. Follow the prompts to register, and you automatically get the picks, the wisdom, the analysis, and the winning point spread advice, plus rewards points for every click. It's all there. Thanks for dropping in to another episode of Crush House, because winning isn't everything. It's the only thing. Until next time, just beat the point spread, baby.
But mostly when I look out the Crush House window, I see yellow. Fuck. One more time. Sorry, from the top. Hey, everybody, I'm Frank Nicotero, and as I look out the Crush House window, I see the fall. Fuck. One more time. Fuck. One more time. Oh, there's a squirrel. Oh, there's a neighbor's dogs in the air. I don't know.